Hello, everybody, and welcome to the very latest CADS podcast. We're here tonight to talk about a Champions League match, but we're also going to be talking about a Premier League match, which might be a little bit more interesting. Let's talk about the Premier League match second tonight, shall we? I'm joined by Ash. How you doing, Ash?
All right, mate. Good to see you.
You good to go on the Premier League second? We'll talk Bodø Glimt first.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Okay, so what did you think? Bodø Glimt, I'll be honest, I was not expecting an easy game. They are a tough side to beat, certainly in the Arctic Circle this time of year. It doesn't get any easier. And although we did very well against them last time, it was over two legs. I know we beat them home and away, but it wasn't a particularly easy game last time we played there. And it looked as though the players weren't fully ready for it. There were legs out there that didn't seem they were particularly fresh. What did you think?
Yeah, exactly. I recall in those two legs in May semifinal, right?
Yeah.
We were up 3-0 in the first leg, and they got a late goal back, and they were trolling us and saying, "Oh, we're going to beat you in the away home game and stuff." And quite frankly, it was a bit, going, "Oh my goodness, they're only 2 goals behind." And then, if I believe the second leg, their home leg, I think it was scoreless at halftime. The thing was, all we needed was 1 goal, which basically would have ended the tie. And we did get that 1 goal, but it was into the second half. And as with last year, as this year, they are on that home field. They're actually a very good team. Apparently, they've beaten a bunch of teams there. And Man City has to play there this season during the colder weather. So it ain't going to be easy for Man City. Of course, Harlem actually is from there, so maybe he'll do just fine. He put his snowshoes on and he'll be just fine, So yeah, I like you thought it was going to be challenging and tough. I don't know if he got. We do have a lot of injuries, so we are somewhat limited. But I gotta hand it to the team for hanging in there and getting a very valuable point. So kudos to them for pulling out something that looked like it was lost.
Yeah, as you said, we do have injuries, particularly in the creative players section. We've got Kudus out, we've got Madison out. Both of us are players who could make an absolute difference in this side. And with Zavi still kind of acclimatizing to the way the team plays, and we're still seeing that. We're still seeing Zavi playing balls and people aren't, or trying things that others aren't quite ready to go for. But we're starting to see things get a little bit more interesting. I certainly thought we improved once Zavi came on, once our creative players kind of meshed together. Maybe it was the fact that the Bodø Glimt players were starting to get a little bit tired. I'm not sure. Perhaps it was just good use of the bench from Thomas Frank. But for me, it was a hard game to watch. And the last 15 minutes were great. The rest of the match was, I'm not really enjoying it. And I didn't enjoy it very much.
Well, they were playing a game of rugby in terms of their conversions. So they kept sending the ball over. One of the issues we have, and it may be slightly solved on the Premier League game yesterday, was that, Richarlison, and God bless his effort, is not a type of guy to hold up the ball like Solanke is or Harry Kane was, So unfortunately, the ball kind of goes up there and comes right back, which sort of puts pressure on our midfield and then obviously on our defense. And Vic's clearances distribution are not always great at best. So the ball just seemed to be coming back when we were playing a little bit more defensively, but we weren't making any headway in there. So that was definitely an issue. We don't have Solanke or Moani, and quite frankly, I don't even know what Moani would be like because we haven't seen him. So yeah, I thought that was an issue, our inability to hold the ball up. But I think he came up with some solutions to that in yesterday's game. But once again, they were, I think, about the 70th minute, they did seem to be tiring. They got some really skillful players in their team. A couple of them look great on our team, on our squad anyway. And you gotta hand it to them, small town and the effort and whatever. Good for them. I think their manager was really upset that they didn't win, but we got the point, and bully for us for doing so.
Yeah, they got something like a 6,000 seater stadium, which is, I mean, remarkably tiny. How they managed to make it work and compete at that level is, is impressive. You got to give them some credit.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And they'll probably do very, very well in the Norwegian League again this year and probably be in the Champions League again next year. So, fingers crossed for them because they put in a very, very tidy performance. And I, part of me thinks that our mental strength this year has really improved. I'm not sure whether part of me says it could be down to Thomas Frank. Okay. Could be down to the fact that he's installed this new level of mental strength in the side and given them more belief. But also part of it could be the fact that these players, or the majority of these players, have won a trophy last season. And now they're thinking, yeah, these things are achievable, but we need to work for it. And they went through some tough games last season and they beat sides like Bodø Glimt and Eintracht Frankfurt, when players, other clubs, people in the media were expecting them to struggle somewhat. And then we went and beat Manchester United in the final when Manchester United were looked at as probably the favourites in that match. So is it the trials and tribulations that all the team went under last year, or is it more Thomas Frank's influence? Which do you think?
Probably a combination, but good point though.
Mm.
Because we tend to forget it was only 4 or 5 months ago that we actually won that, and to go through those trials and tribulations to win it is not easy. Um, so yeah, I think it's a combination. But I'll tell you this, Frank, that's one of the first things he mentions is mentality.
Hmm.
So definitely he has had an impact because that is the thing that he tries to impress. So it's good points, Stu, that I think we are tougher and we won't just collapse, even when it's too, well, we've proved it in at least 3 games recently when we were down and came back. We didn't win, but we came back. So yeah, there's definitely a mentality. I probably helps that somehow we're keeping our back four together. We're somehow keeping them healthy. Um, I'm thinking that they must be doing the medical staff must be doing something more because Van der Ven was not playing 2 games a week, consecutive games last season. He is now. In fact, he started like 3 games in a row, didn't he? He started
Yeah.
Wolves, Bodø, and Leeds yesterday. I don't think he's done that for us at all. So something must be going on in terms of maybe they're wrapping him cotton wool, maybe they're doing some. I heard they were doing a lot of massage techniques on his hamstrings, but and even Romero apparently took a nasty knock in the Wolves game, and Frank was giving kudos to the medical staff for being able to have him
Mm.
ready for this day. So another aspect, the mentality is maybe we're a little bit healthier to keep that back, well, five actually, together, which we did have them together for the Europa run last year. So a few different factors, but I think mentality is definitely the main one.
I think with Van der Ven, it's potentially the fact that they did a lot of biomechanics retraining on him
What does
last
that
season. So
what does
they
that mean?
were basically teaching him how to run again. So teaching
Ah,
him how to run and how to move in a way that's not likely to cause stress on various parts of his body.
wow.
So, I mean, top level athletes, they can identify these things and they can say, right, the way that you stand, the way that you run, the way that you walk, your feet are turned out a little bit, it's going to bit more pressure on your lower back. And I mean, I had a back injury for a number of years and then I went to see a clinic in London and spent like 3 months in London going to see them like twice a week. And really good physios, like really, really good people. And credit to the back to normal people in London. Thank you. Fantastic work. The really top people actually can pick out this stuff. It's very, very good, really impressive. So, hopefully, I'm not saying we've seen the end of his injury issues, but hopefully we will see less of those kind of injury issues from him in the future.
Stu, now it's just not just him, but it's been general that there have been, knock wood, I'm hitting wood
Hmm.
now, general less soft tissue issues than last season. Um, just do you think that that was that obvious factor that the way Ange trained made our players more susceptible to injury, and that perhaps we're not doing the same thing apart from those biomechanics, which is brilliant thought there. Do you think that something has also changed because the fact Ange is not running us into the ground, the players into the ground?
I think it's potentially lazy pundits that come up with that stuff because if you look at the injuries that we had last year, the majority of them were not soft tissue or muscle injuries. They were structural issues. It was stuff that, bones and, ligaments and things like that.
There were
Cuti
hamstring,
Romero
there
was
were
ligaments.
hamstring, there were quite a few.
Well, we say quite a few. There were, I think, Odobert had a hamstring injury, and Van der Ven had a hamstring injury. Not any others, as far as I remember. The rest were all, ligaments or broken bones or things like that. So, you know, it's an easy story to write, and I can see that the press and the pundits are still going on about it now. They kept on going on about how we were weak from set pieces. Well, we massively improved in set pieces last season. Yeah, and frankly, we've not been fantastic at defending set pieces this season. And people are pointing at Vicario and saying, "Oh, he should be able to do better." It takes more than just one person, right? It takes more than just a goalkeeper to command the box at set pieces. You've got to have a team working together and everybody pulling in the right direction to be able to work effectively in that area. So it's not just down to one person. It requires coaching, it requires organization, it requires the right combination of players and everything like that for it all to work. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? It's very difficult. It's not that easy. We've seen it from clubs like Manchester United. We've seen it or Brentford this year. They've got literally a set piece coach in charge from last season is now their manager, and they've not been brilliant on set piece defending this year. So, it's lazy punditry, and I think there's an awful lot of stuff that goes down to lazy punditry, and sometimes it follows a manager. And you can see it with Ange at Forest now. I saw him today talking about, oh, Nottingham Forest are not very good from set pieces. Come on. Just move on, gents. Let's find something original to say.
One other thing before we get to the Premier League, and I like this about Frank, is that he's actually doing rotating of 5 or 6 players,
Hmm.
and he's keeping them all, which is good, a couple of aspects, um, keeping us fresh, but also keeping the players involved, which is
Yeah.
terrific, which is very smart, I think. Um, except for those two guys like Van de Ven and Romero, although Romero did miss that last game. So I think it's very smart, 5 or 6. I think even yesterday's game, and there were like 6 changes from the Champions League game, the Bodø game. And some of those changes, I'm very excited by what was seen yesterday when we get onto it. But what do you think about his rotation for from the Premier League to the Champions League? Oh,
I
even the cup.
think I think with the players we have now, we have the options of doing some rotating. I'm still a little bit worried by how much we're playing Pedro Porro.
That's true.
Uh, he's playing a lot of football,
Nearly
and
every
I
day.
know I know he managed it last season, and he seems to be coping this season. But I would love to see him just being given a rest every so often. I know he's missed. He was rested for the start of one game, but he came on in, was it Brighton? The Brighton game he came on, or Doncaster? One of those. Um, he was rested, but he came on and played the rest of the match. So I'd like to see him given a little bit more time. I think Kevin Danso is a very good player who probably would start for a decent number of Premier League teams, and be happy to see him get a little bit more time, particularly on the left, to give Van der Ven a bit of a chance to have a recovery time as well. It's really difficult. The midfield, I think, is our major conundrum for this season because we've got a lot of players in central midfield, but we don't seem to have found the right balance yet. And I think that showed in this game, and I think it showed in the Leeds game as well, which we're going to talk about next. But
Yeah,
we need
just
to
one
get
thing.
that balance just right.
Absolutely. One thing about Poro, and it was evident in that Bodo game, he got kind of skinned on both the goals by the same player. So he's still got a weakness in his defending. You saw that, right? Um, Jan Peter Hager or something like that.
Jans Petter Hauge, I think his name is.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice player. He two players let him go for the first goal, Poro and Johnson, but Johnson went after the overlapping player, and Poro just let him go. And the second goal, the guy dropped his shoulder and just skinned Poro in the
Mm.
penalty box. Nice goal, very nice, both nice goals. So Poro still, although it was Udogi in yesterday's game who let the back post guy get away. So Poro is still a bit susceptible. Of course, Walker was like that as well when he was with us. So what are your thoughts on that? Because it was obvious he was beaten on both those goals in the Bodø game.
I can't think of many right backs in the Premier League that I would want ahead of Pedro Porro. Haven't got a chance to watch all of the teams in this league this season, but so far, Pedro Porro looks to be the most dominant and the most well suited to our team. Right, he's decent going forward. He's got that attacking ability. He's also improved massively defensively. And then again, a lot of people are sticking to the same kind of thoughts they had when he joined us from Sporting Lisbon, where he was at the start a defensive liability. Let's not mince words. He was not good, but he improved quickly, put a lot of work in, and he's a genuine two-way player now. He goes forward and he defends very well. He will come up against very good players in games, and they'll do him. Jans Petter Hauge is an extremely good player. He was linked to Brentford a few years back, and now he's being linked to us.
Oh, is that right?
Whether or not, apparently so. So whether or not he's got the Premier League quality to be able to do what he did in that game against us every single week, which is kind of what clubs need, is probably the major question. But that's a question that, Thomas Frank is going to have to sit back and answer. And also the guys with the bean counters, those checking out how much money there is to spend, because I doubt he'd be particularly cheap.
Yeah, I think until that Bodo game, and it could be that he's playing too many games. I thought that Paro, who I actually love, I love his attitude, his commitment,
Hmm.
everything about the guy is great. Except his defense had improved, but he was dodgy on those two goals, and it could well be because of the type of player that he was facing. Um, anyway, he wasn't the only one. But once again, the mentality helped us get through and to hang in there as they were tiring and to actually score those goals. Oh, and Gray put in a lovely cameo.
Yeah,
Um,
looked very good when he came on.
didn't he pass that ball in for the own goal? Our top
Yeah.
scorer this. Yes, very nice.
Owen goal. Yeah.
Which by the way will lead into our central midfield that you just brought up, Gray, because against his old team, he didn't even come on for an appearance yesterday. So anything else? Oh yeah, we're in ninth. At the table, we're in ninth place in the Champions League table. One place out of the 6 games to go still. One
Mm.
place out of automatic qualifying, which is where we want to be. So that's not bad. We're ahead of like Barcelona and somebody else and Newcastle and surprisingly a bunch of teams. Only after 2 games.
And we got Monaco up next, who just had a pretty good result against Manchester City. I will be going to that game, so I'm interested to see what will
Oh
happen
yeah.
there.
I'll say hello to Eric Dyer for us.
I'll have sign in the stands. Ash says hi. That could be fun, yeah.
Yeah, it could
No,
be fun.
the midfield conundrum is a bit of an issue, and I think potentially Poro's performance was partly caused by that because Pellinia was getting caught out. I mean, he's got this wonderful ability to be where the problem is, but sometimes he does drop too deep and he does get suckered in a little bit. And I think he did get sucked in a few times against Buddha, and it then led to an overload on their left hand side. So he'd been pulled out one side and they shifted the ball the other way. And the other thing we got to remember is Thomas Frank's been in charge of his club for 10 games now,
Yep.
including Cup and League, 10 games, right? And the Border manager's been there for 6, 7 seasons. He's got those players playing exactly how he wants. They know exactly what they're doing. They know what they're doing at set pieces. They know what they're doing in transition. They know what their rest defense is going to be. They know where they're moving in attack. They know all of those things. They know it back to front, inside out, because he's been there for so long. Right. And when they move one person out, they bring someone else in who's been trained in exactly the same way and knows exactly what's happening. And they don't bring those people in until they're ready. So we really need to give Thomas Frank a bit more time. There's been ridiculous people saying, "Oh, he's not going to work. We need to get rid of him and find someone else." No, we
Right
need to
away.
give this guy. We need to give this guy a chance to actually show what he can do because we brought him in as manager for a reason. And let's do that. Let's actually back our manager for once and give him a chance to show what can be done if you provide a manager with backing and time, because it's something we have not done for a very long time since the Pochettino days. And even then, what, the second bit of trouble he ever had, they got rid of him. So yeah, I'm very
Yeah,
much in the camp of give the guy some patience and favor.
absolutely. He's actually, as you had noted in the earlier podcast, because you said both at Brøndby and at Brentford, he didn't start his careers off that well in the early games, and he's obviously done much better with us than he had in those previous adventures with those other clubs. So, yeah, boy, give him half a season, give him a full season. Let's see what he can do there. By the
Yeah,
way,
I'm hoping this is his rough start, because if this is his rough start with one loss in 10 games, let the rest of the season come, because we will be cooking.
yeah, injuries are a big thing, of course, and we are
Yeah.
definitely lacking, and this is going to get into our midfield thing. We are definitely lacking. Um, is it time to talk about the Leeds game?
Yeah, let's move on to the Elland Road game. I think one thing that we have shown this season is we struggle against physical sides.
Mhm.
That when a side takes the game physical, and yesterday Leeds were allowed to make the game physical. Okay, the referee let a number of challenges go that really should have been called up and pulled back. And when that happens, we do seem to shrink a little bit. I think it's very good that our players actually managed to pick themselves up and dust themselves down and push on again. And maybe that's something to do with the influence of the captain, sorry, as well as the coach, because Romero, despite having been a much more improved disciplinary wise player, still has that edge about him, right? He's not someone you mess with. He's not someone you want to get on the wrong side of. So I was amazed yesterday when the Leeds player put his head into Romero, that Romero didn't frankly just nut him and get himself sent off, because I'm
Yeah,
sure that's what he was after. I'm sure that's what the
yeah,
Leeds guy was looking for. It's not
absolutely.
the first time we've come up against physical play. We saw it against West Ham, we saw it against Bournemouth, we saw it against Brighton, particularly Brighton, and we have struggled in games like that. Bodø Glimt's played a physical style as well for much of the match, and we have struggled. It was really good to see us going out and managing to make something happen, right? Make something stick in a game like this. They made it physical, but we still battled and fought and made it happen. We won anyway.
Yeah, they so we must have done our research, given what you just said about the physicality ahead of the game. Um, Putting in those twin pivots, which we haven't done that many times. I believe PSG and Man City, definitely those games, probably because they were expecting that physicality, and then of course Van de Ven and Romero behind them. But what was surprising, and it could have been that we were actually forced into it because Richarlison can't play every game. And Solanke still out, Moani out. He actually used four of our fastest players in a new combination. All four of those, we didn't have any of those four guys were starting. We had a completely different front four last season. So I think he went for a really solid back and then said, you know what? We're going to have a really young, fast, skillful front four. And it actually was great to see finally bear some fruition. Okay.
So Thomas Frank at Brentford, a lot of his game was about getting the ball forward to the
Yeah.
fast players, right?
Okay. All right.
Was it Damsgaard in the middle? Get the ball to him, and he would beat the player and immediately pass the ball out wide to one of the fast attacking players, whether it was left or the right. And then they
Okay.
had Johan Visser in the middle, who did a pretty good job last season of scoring goals, right? Picking up the crumbs and making it into a cake. He did very well. We haven't seen so much of that this season, but I think that's something he does want us to do, is break with pace, break with some intensity. And with players like Odobert, Kudus, Zavi, and Tell, because Tell's also pretty pacey, we've suddenly got the players that have that quick thinking in their heads and have the ability to do it. I still think there's a lot more to come from Odobert. I really like him as a player, but I still think he's kind of holding back. I still think there's an element of him not having fully blossomed yet as a player, and he will, as long as we give him the time and we give him like the opportunities. But Matis Tell, I think, had probably one of his best games for the club. He's had some good performances, but that was his best striker's performance, and
Ooh,
fully deserved his goal. I thought he worked really well, worked very hard, some nice touches. There was one point where he brought the ball down in a way you're like, am I sure that's not Kudus? Definitely wasn't Kudus. I didn't make the was it Darren Fletcher mixing up Udogi and Matty Stell. Don't know how you do that. They're quite different players and playing very different parts of the pitch. But you know, they there were some good touches, there was some good movement, and for him to take the goal the way he did, I thought was really impressive. I don't know what you
absolutely.
thought.
And he hit the crossbar on a nice play from
Mhm.
is it Udogi from the left, or might have been
Yeah,
yeah, the speed. That's interesting you say about Brentford. I never watched them because it was a very different approach. And as I said, perhaps forced into it, but maybe that's where he wants to go anyway. And boy, if we get Tell to score, just a few more goals, because Richie can't play every game, and Tell has a little bit more than Richie does. By the way, I did notice that because we don't have a big center forward, the out ball was going to Kudus, and he's able to control the ball. You know what I
he's
mean?
got great control.
He does.
If you give it to him, he will make it stick. Absolutely.
So that was kind of like a new option as opposed to sending it up there to Richie, who and he's going to bounce off him, and maybe Tell. I don't know if he's that type of player. He's a different type of striker. Odobert is not that tall, so you're not gonna. So I was very interesting that they. I love his tactics. By the way, everyone speaks highly of Thomas Frank. The pundits do, the
Hmm.
players do. They all seem to. Um, One of the guys, it might have been Kudus, who I had to go look it up. Pardon this, I didn't know. I said, "Well, what's the official language of Ghana?" It's actually English. His English is superb. He actually used a word that I know and you know, but I don't think for the thousands of words I've written, I've never used comport. And he used it in two different, and I'm going, holy jeez, that's a fantastic word to use, comport. I'm going, the guy probably went to grammar school or something like that in Ghana. But
I think
just
they speak a lot of French in Ghana as well, so you got comportement, so it probably comes from that.
okay. Although I did look it up and they said I don't know if they speak that much French there. Anyway, they seem to love each other. Tell and Kudus and Odobert, the two French guys up there. There's a really good synchronicity there. But getting back to your midfield conundrum, unfortunately, two of our young players who played significant parts last year, enforced by injury last year. Berival and Gray didn't even. I don't think Berival got on, did he? Neither one of them got on yesterday, and Gray certainly didn't. So we've got guy. And what about Sarr came on as a sub? Um, we do have, of course, we do have a lot of games, so they are going to play. But I don't know. I think this is a false belief when they say like, oh, he doesn't know his strongest 11. I don't believe there's anything as a strongest 11 because you are playing so many games. You've got uh, the Premier League team, and then you got a Champions League or a Cup team, and you got to have 4 or 5 changes. So you've got a squad of about 16 or 17 that you're going to actually be using, you know,
Yeah.
uh, of actually starting. I don't mean about subs, but actually starting. So you're talking about 16, 17, not 11, 10 outfield, maybe about 5 or 6 others. So yeah, 15, 16, 17, maybe say 16 players. Um, and I like the fact that he's sticking to it and using those players. So I hope they get. I would hate to see Gray and Berival not get time and be shuffled out because Xavi moving in. Um, I just hope that because of the amount of games that we have, those guys are actually going to be playing as well.
I think Thomas Frank is extremely good at developing young players.
Uh-huh.
And if we're going to trust a manager to bring these players through the system, then probably Thomas Frank is the guy, right? He's got an
Mhm.
extremely good record at Brentford of doing exactly that and knowing exactly how he wants to use them and what skills they need and what they need to work on to get to the point they want. Berival is a very unusual player because he's so good in so many different positions. He could play as a six if you wanted to. He can play deeper. He can play as one of the double pivots. He can play as an eight. He can also play as a 10. But there are games where he can be a little bit quiet. Yeah. Gray, I think, is a little bit younger, both in terms of his age and his maturity and development. But he's got such massive amounts of talent. Just being able to play right back and central defense and left back last season and defensive midfielder, you know, being able to do all of those positions and do all of them to a reasonably high standard. No, he wasn't the best player, right? He had his moments where things went wrong and he didn't probably wasn't as physically imposing as he should have been when he was at centre back. But then this is an 18-year-old kid who's still growing. He's got so much in him. He's got skill, he's got quality in the ball, and he clearly knows how to play a pass and he knows, how the game moves around him. I'm really impressed by him, but it's how do you fit these guys in? How do you fit a Berival in when you've got Bentancur, who's very steady, very reliable generally? Yeah, he has messed up a few times. In yesterday's game, he lost the
Yep.
ball to Calvert-Lewin, who managed to get a shot on target and not great. But
Then,
do you drop the steady Eddie for someone who could be really good or someone who, maybe a little bit off form? We don't know. Yeah, we don't see them in training. Maybe Frank is saying, right, okay, I'm watching you in training. I'm not seeing a player who's ready to start in this match yet, knowing that it was going to be a physical battle. If you need a runner, if you need someone who's going to run off the ball and become an option, then yeah, he's probably your guy. But if you need someone who's going to sit a little bit deeper and just knit things together and have a lovely touch, probably Bentancur is that guy as well. So you've got to
yeah,
be careful.
yeah, definitely he went with the 4-2-3-1 yesterday, and he's probably not going to be playing um, those two guys as a double pivot all the time. Because if you do move Xavi, and we haven't talked about him yet, into that, you essentially by moving Xavi there, having a double pivot and then Xavi in front of them, you're
Yeah.
sort of not starting Sarr, Berival, and Gray. And that's not even counting Kulusevski coming in, or not, maybe next season matters. Uh, yeah, it's a good thing. It's a good situation to have that we have such talent. I do think I'm hoping that because the amount of games we have, that those guys are going to play. So he's not going to play the double pivot every game, and when people were complaining about Xavi being on the left wing, I think Frank wanted to be playing Sarr or Berival. He wanted those guys, and that's why he was almost forced to put Xavi at. By the way, when Xavi was ostensibly starting on the left, I watched closely, especially if your doggy's playing, he's not actually on the left. He's
Mm.
actually drifting inside into a left-sided number 10. so it's not as if he's out there all the time. So, they're aware of that, there are options. What do you think about how did it work with Xavi in the 10 yesterday?
I like Zavi in the 10. I mean, starting from the left and moving more centrally, that's something that he did when he was at Leipzig. So
Okay.
he did that a number of times, but he also played down the right a few times. He played through the centre and even played as a second striker a few times. So, you got to kind of be careful of where you're going to play him. I think that it's a good idea to give him a chance to develop and adapt to the league in the position we're going to use him. For me, that's a number 10,
Mhm.
right? I still think our left side is an area where we need a little bit more work. Maybe we need to bring in a guaranteed starter in January. I know, we were talking about Semenyo over the course of the summer, but I don't really want to see Zavi starting out there because I'd much rather have him in the middle and pulling strings. Against Leeds was probably his best game for us. He pulled some
Mhm.
very, very nice balls. There was that lovely little chip ball that Poro got through and hit the side netting with a lovely shot. I think there's a lot more to come from him being in that position, and I want to see him adapting to the Premier League in that central position instead of doing what we did with Modric, which is like play him out on the left and then finally move him into the centre, 15, 20 games later. I'd rather just say, right, this is the position you're going to play with us. Go out there, make something happen, be that guy who is the string puller. And that's what I want him to do. And I think with that, we will see better performances from the players around him. And I think we saw that Odobert probably had his best game in a while yesterday. When you play Odobert and Udogie, you've got a much better balance on the left because Odobert can go inside or outside because he can play off both feet. Udogie's got that ability to charge up the left and put the ball across, whereas Spence needs to kind of come in a little bit more. I
Yeah,
think if we
cut
were
in on
going
the
to
right
play,
foot.
yeah, if we were going to play Zavi, Odobert, and Spence, we'd suddenly find that they're all standing on top of each other in a way. That would be an issue. But it really, it's depending on the chemistry and the makeup of the side. Who do you play in certain positions in certain games? What do you need? You need a player who comes and attacks further keeps wider down the left, in which case you play a doggy. Do you need someone who's going to come inside and be like vibrant attacking force? Then we can go with Spence. They're both very, very good players. We're lucky to have them both.
What people because I don't watch other teams as much anymore because I've got other things. There's baseball going on, playoffs going on here, the NFL. Somewhat involved in that, so I don't get to see. There's Alice Abraham is who I really like her podcast. Um, drums on about Wharton. She mentioned Wharton 3 times. He's not even in the England squad, and she mentioned Semenyo. My question being that do you think potentially that Odobert, do we have to bring in, can Odobert and even Tell and even Richarlison, because Richarlison in that Europa League was actually playing on the left and was actually doing not badly on the left. Obviously not as good as a left footer there. Do you think we have in those 3 players, Odobert, Tell, maybe Richarlison, um, enough there? Why should we bring in somebody else who's going to put those guys out of the Champions League squad and not give them opportunities because they are both young, especially Odobert and Tell, 20 years old, 22.
I think Tell wants to be playing through the centre.
Hmm.
I kind of agree with him playing through the centre. I think he's got a lot of quality. He's got a real maturity to him as a player. It's very unfortunate in the times he's been given. Like I think it was the Brighton game, he whiffed 2 chances, 2 really obvious chances, and I don't think that will do his confidence any good. But his maturity level will help him through that. He's a very mature young player. I don't
Right.
think Odobert has that same level of maturity. Whereas I think in terms of skill, ability on the ball, I think Odobert's got more skill than Tell. Tell's a good player, very good player. I just don't. I think he's probably got a bit more heart than Odobert has. A bit more courage in him and conviction in himself. And it could just be because Odobert's coming off the back of a fairly significant injury last season, and he's still getting that faith back in his body. It can take players a while to come back. But if you get the opportunity to sign a nailed on starter for that left wing or left sided attacking player's position, you've got to go for it, I think, because at the moment we don't have anyone who absolutely goes, that's my position, and you're gonna have to try and take it off me. Like we've got players who could play down the right, okay? And when Kulusevski come back, you could say, right, he could play down the right as well. But can you see any of those taking serious amounts of minutes off Kudus with the form and the way he's playing?
No, I can't. But you're right. So what is this Semenyo? Is he any good or what's the deal?
Semenyo's excellent. The problem is that we tried for him early on in the summer, and a number of other clubs went, and he said, "No, I want to stay at Bournemouth." And so he decided to stay at Bournemouth instead of coming to us, and killed all links to other clubs. He's playing really well there. He's loved by the club. He's, obviously going to get a decent contract next time negotiations start.
Hmm.
What can you do? What can you do? If your player doesn't want to come, you can't force him. There are other good players out there as well. We'll see
Okay.
whether or not one of those comes in.
Yeah. Yeah. What else? Pellinia has been a revelation, I believe. Um, Top goal scorer and playing, he, um,
After Owen goal, yeah.
yeah, after OG. Owen go. He's a Welshman, is he? Uh, Yeah, it's just left a smile on my face. The actual results are what it's about, and what 4 wins and 3 draws in the last seven matches, leading into it's nice to break that hoodoo of 7 losses in a row before an international break. So
Yeah.
to do that, of course, let's hope nobody comes back injured. Um, it would be great to. I bet you Solanke he's not gonna be available for a while. I thought that was a mistake on their part on not doing the surgery earlier. Remember that might have been you who was saying, "Oh, I think he's going to be just have surgery." He probably should have had surgery at that point that he got injured.
Yeah, it wasn't me. I believe it was Matt on the forum who said he needs an operation. My understanding is that they thought he might need an operation, but they also thought that with careful treatment and non-surgical measures that they could keep him off the surgeon's table. It just didn't work out that way.
Right. So we don't know what Moani can do. So there's hope there that he can contribute. We've certainly got options in midfield, and if our Japanese center back he's been in training for 10 days now, and I don't know how far off Dragishin is, but we got we're going to have a little bit more depth if these players come back. I just have this thought that Solanke he's a sick note, and he's just unfortunately um he's just not going to contribute. And who knows, he might come back and get injured again. It's not good. It's not good because I like his effort. I like it. It was very important in that Europa League campaign last year. His work rate was superb.
For
Um
me, I think Solanke's asked to do too much, to the detriment of his own scoring opportunities. He
yeah.
drops too deep, he gets involved in stuff, which means he's not at the sharp end when the ball comes in. He's often the player coming in behind it, and we've seen that he snaffles up some loose balls and scores some goals that way. But for me, I want him to see him attacking the corner, attacking the post. I want to see him like just dropping off off the shoulder of a defender. I think he's got that in him. We certainly saw it when he was at Bournemouth and some of his other clubs when he's done very well. He just needs to do it for us. When it starts to click, he'll be fine. I think there's a lot more to come from him. I'm not really convinced that we need a striker right now.
Okay,
You
that's
know,
good.
Kola
Okay.
Moani, I think, was brought in just in case there was an issue with Solanke, and I think we can infer from the time that the deal happened that that was the case because he was brought in very late in the window. Apparently, it was all done in less than 48 hours. So
Yeah.
yeah, for me, I think Solanke is the player that we're looking at as, the one we're gonna be working with the next 2, 3 seasons because he's not particularly young. He's what, 28 now. You know,
He's not young. Yeah.
Probably move Richarlison on at some point. Hope that Matty's Tell steps up, or Will Lancashire, someone like that. There's options.
Who has been What, we played 10 games. Who has been perhaps the most influential player so far, do you think, in our squad?
I think probably Romero, just from his leadership capacity. I think, he's played some really lovely balls. He's been a calming measure at the back. He's done extremely well. We haven't conceded many goals. What, 3 goals all season in the league?
Wow.
So, no, we scored, hang on. Bournemouth one, Wolves two, and then one yesterday. So that's at least four. And if maybe I've missed some others. So yeah, I think defensively we've been solid. I think he's largely important for that because he does lead that back line. He's the guy that steps out and gets his foot in earlier on. But again, he's continuing with that more measured side that we've seen from him that started last season. We've not seen yellow cards, we've not seen red cards. So for me, I think he is the player so far that has had the greatest influence. On our attack, I think we're waiting for someone to be that player. We're waiting for Kudus to become more of an influence. Although he did very well in his first game with those 2 assists for Richarlison. Richarlison's dropped off a little bit. Zavi, I think, could be a fantastic player for us, and a lot of people know I'm hot on him, so I want to see him do well. But there's a lot of players who have potential, and we're just waiting to see them step up and make that potential into something.
I think I agree with you, Romero, because you lead by example and you lead from the top.
Mm.
I have been surprised by Pellinia, by what he's been to contribute. He's not a great progressor of the forward ball, but as you said, he's sometimes gets caught out a little bit. But
Mm.
he, I think he's much better than what we've had in the number 6 before, to be honest. By the way, Basuma is still with us, right?
Injured, injured apparently.
Well,
But
apparently not.
obviously,
Back in training.
it might be back in training now. But he's been injured for at least a couple of weeks. But the word that seems to be talked about a lot is the fact that he's not highly rated by Thomas Frank.
Right. But
So we'll see whether or not he's got a future at the club. Maybe he does.
but I think we've improved that number 6, because we were crying for a lot. Well, last on these podcasts, last couple of seasons, talking about what's our main need, and we'd all say number 6, or move Cootie there, or whatever. We may have him, but we got him for this season anyway. We've got a number 6 there, and Bentancur can play there. So we've got some good options. I hope the injured ones come back just to fill out our options a little more.
Yeah, Solanke coming back would be very nice. Having Madison back, it's not going to happen. Probably not this season, but
Exactly.
having Madison in this squad would be really useful because we could have a more experienced player playing in the minutes where we don't think Xavi's 100% ready yet. Decky is a bit of a conundrum. There were times, not last season, but the season before, I was like starting to think, could we sell this guy and make better use of the squad place and the money? But then he came back last season and was fantastic, one of our best players.
We
And
got
if that
injured.
player comes back, excellent. But at the same time, you look at it and go, where does he play? Because his position is right wing, and again, Kudus seems to have made that position his own. And I don't think you're going to have a happy Decky sat on the bench waiting to come on to play 15, 20 minutes. He's going to
No.
want more than that. So do you play him as an 8? Do you play him as a 10? Where do you fit him in? Really difficult.
Yeah. Also, somebody made an interesting point. Might have been Weeksy actually, about re-signing Bentancur. And he wondered if perhaps doing that we're actually blocking the path of Gray, which is an interesting point, because that could be a position that Gray could play. Um, what do you think about that?
Gray's a really difficult one. I look at Gray and I see a player who could play at 8. He could play 6. When you look at the need we have in the squad, we have a need for a 6, right? We have a need for someone who's going to be able to push on and take Pellinia's position next season if he doesn't sign, or in a couple of seasons after that as he starts to age out. Is Gray that guy? Does Gray have that battling mentality, or is he someone who is going to be more of a midfield string puller? He's definitely got that ability. I mean, we've seen such good performances from him at times. And his best performance has been when he's played a little bit further forward. So maybe that's the future for him. But if you do that, then suddenly he's up against Bentancur, he's up against Berival, he's up against Sarr. It's a small number of places for a decent number of very, very good players. We talked about Berival today, we talked about Gray, we talked about Pellinia. We haven't talked about Sarr. Sarr,
Yeah,
as far as I'm concerned, is having a breakout season,
yeah,
been one of
yeah,
our best midfielders.
yeah,
And he's being shuffled around and fitting in here and there. Where do you fit this guy in? He's such a good quality player. How do you fit him into this side? It's a real conundrum. My personal choice would be making sure he's always in there, start of that double pivot, and giving him the chance to be the legs in midfield, because he's such an athlete. He runs so hard. He's makes opportunities just from his running. Gives people space to pass the ball to him. There's always an option for them to pass the ball to. I think he's fantastic. I really want to see him more this season.
So you could see him perhaps if Pellinia or Bentancur comes out, him going into that double pivot there, and he can play that, right? I think he
Yeah,
might.
absolutely. But he's also played as the 10 for us this season, which it's
Earlier
not
this
somewhere I ever expected to see him playing, but he has done it.
earlier this season, actually, he's played as
Yeah.
number 10. Him and Berival. Well, we've got a hell of a lot of games and some top class games coming back after this international break. Big games coming up. So
Yeah, Aston Villa up next, followed by Monaco. So Aston Villa's on the 19th. So our next pod will be on Monday the 20th. So hopefully you'll be around for that one.
the 20th. After Aston Villa.
After Aston Villa, yeah. So home game against Aston Villa. So we got the international break to get out of the way. Then Aston Villa, which I believe Solanke is also going to be out for, but that might be the last game that he misses. So we'll see how it goes from there. But yeah, hopefully you'll be with us for that. Thank you everybody for joining us this evening. It's been really good. Thank you, Ash, for making the time and chatting to us. Ash, you got any new books coming out, or any books currently available for sale?
Harlem to Hollywood, actually, which features Harlem to Hollywood, Detective Sonny Grasso's biography.
Hmm.
It features a lot of stories, some great stories about Billy Friedkin and Gene Hackman, his Sonny's real partner Eddie Egan, who Hackman portrayed in The French Connection. On the 7th, which is 2 days from now, marks the anniversary of the release of The French Connection, which won 5 Oscar awards. So I've been writing some blogs just to help promote that and the novel. It's still out, being read. I'm actually approaching a big agency called William Morris to see if they can get somebody there to have a read of the book or slash pilot. So yeah, the Hollywood shuffle continues, as even Charles would say. It is a shuffle sometimes, one step forward, 2 steps back, and then like Tottenham, sometimes a couple of steps to the side. So but if you love the game, I'm going tomorrow to a wonderful place called the Astor Boutique Hotel, and they have a private members club. It's almost like this. They have it in Britain, I believe, the Soho House.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a member to go there. And they're having a writers meetup tomorrow. I'm quite looking forward to it. It's just a place to collaborate, share ideas, and it's right in the heart of Hollywood. And I've just come across this group, so thank you for asking. I'm very excited to be part of that. We'll keep you posted.
All right. Well, thanks, Ash, for joining. And as I said, see you everybody on Monday, the 20th of October, when we will be back for the next CADS episode. Until then, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Gather round, lads, it's time for a just take the punch. With every wild take, we raise up our glass, while pundits just chuckle, ignore them alas. The CADS chat shit. To the left and the right, we're taking a hit, so you know it's true. Hear the banter ignite, raise your voice loud, shout it out tonight. The CADS chat shit, we'll sing it again with a smile and a grin. Oh, here's to the boys, let's make it a trend. With a wink and a nudge, let the fun never end. Last week we claimed it'll be 5-0 for sure. Now we're debating if we'll score at the door. Did you see that last miss? What a fiery debate as we pull up our chairs and we narrow our fates. Hot takes flying high, we're the kings of the pub, while the lads on the pitch just need a good rub. From the top of the table or right back to the ground, you'll hear us all chatting that familiar sound. The CADS chat shit. To the left and the right, we're taking a hit, so you know it's true. Hear the banter ignite, raise your voice loud, shout it out tonight. The CADS chat shit, we'll sing it again with a smile and a grin. Oh, here's to the boys, let's make it a trend. With a wink and a nudge, let the fun never end.